What if the fate of an entire nation rested in the hands of a woman the world had cast aside? Rahab, a harlot, an outcast, a woman forgotten by society, became the key to an unstoppable divine plan. In the heart of Jericho, as fear gripped the city, 2 spies from Israel sought refuge in her house. The king's soldiers were closing in, and Rahab had only seconds to decide: hand them over and save herself, or risk everything for a God she barely knew. Why did she make that choice? What did she see that mighty kings and warriors could not? And how did a single scarlet rope become a symbol of redemption and salvation? Stay with us, because this is not just a story from the past. It's a story that will challenge the way we see faith, courage, and second chances. Divine Tales presents to you Rahab, the harlot who became a hero of faith. In this video we will explore one of the most powerful and unexpected stories of redemption. Rahab, the harlot who defied a kingdom and saved a nation. A woman rejected by society, yet chosen by destiny. Rahab's courage and faith transformed her from an outcast into a hero. What made her risk everything for 2 Israelite spies? How did a simple scarlet rope become a symbol of salvation? And how did this woman, once seen as nothing, become an ancestor of kings and even Jesus Christ himself? Stay with us as we uncover these captivating revelations. 1. The dark secrets of Jericho and why it was doomed. 2. The spies' deadly mission and Rahab's unexpected role. 3. The power of the scarlet rope. 4. The miraculous fall of Jericho. 5. Rahab's transformation from harlot to hero. 6. Her place in biblical history. 7. Her ultimate legacy in the lineage of Jesus. What would you do if your entire city was marked for destruction? If your only chance at survival meant betraying everything and everyone you knew? Would you risk it all for a God you had only heard whispers about? Rahab, a harlot in the doomed city of Jericho, faced this impossible choice. The city's mighty walls stood firm, its people confident in their strength, but disaster loomed. When 2 Israelite spies infiltrated Jericho, hunted by the king's men, they found an unlikely ally in Rahab. She hid them, lied to protect them, and made a deal that would change history. But why did she take such a risk? Was it faith, desperation, or something more? What did she see that no one else in Jericho could? As the battle for Jericho neared, Rahab clung to a single promise: a scarlet rope hanging from her window. Would it be enough to save her? Could a woman rejected by society become part of something greater? Kindly share your thought in the comments section below. The walls of Jericho rose like giants, unyielding, unshaken, yet their fall was already written. Inside, a woman lived in the shadows, her name spoken in hushed tones, wrapped in shame. Rahab the harlot. But fate had a different name for her. One night, desperate footsteps echoed through her door, not of sin but of purpose. 2 spies hunted, breathless, pleading for refuge. The king's men were close. Would she betray them? Would she cling to a city already doomed? She chose faith. She chose risk. She chose a scarlet rope, a lifeline of salvation. A single thread, woven with promise, swayed from her window as Jericho crumbled. And when the dust settled, she was still standing. No longer Rahab the harlot. Rahab the redeemed. Once cast aside, now written into the bloodline of kings. A harlot no more, but a woman who saved a nation. The city burned. Screams faded into silence. The mighty walls of Jericho, once unshakable, lay in ruins. But amidst the ashes, one house stood untouched. One woman, Rahab, once a harlot, now a hero, stood beneath a scarlet rope that had marked her for salvation. She had risked everything for a God she barely knew, and in return, he rewrote her destiny. No longer an outcast, she was welcomed into a new people, a new story, a new name. From shame to redemption, from harlot to history, Rahab did not just survive. She became the woman who saved a nation. Rahab, a harlot by name but a hero by destiny. What led her to risk everything? How did a scarlet thread mark her salvation? Now let's dive deep into her journey, step by step, moment by moment. Jericho stood like a fortress, its mighty walls stretching toward the heavens, an arrogant display of power. A city steeped in sin, drowning in its own corruption. The air reeked of deception, its streets whispered with betrayal. Merchants lined the roads, selling not just goods but greed. Idols of stone and gold loomed over the people, their hollow eyes watching as Jericho's citizens indulged in pleasures that would soon turn to dust. And in the heart of it all, there was Rahab. She was a woman society had cast aside, her name spoken in hushed tones, not with respect but with scorn. A harlot, a woman whose body was currency in a city of indulgence. Yet behind the veil of shame, there was something different about her. She had seen the faces of powerful men crumble in fear. She had heard whispers of an army approaching, of a God unlike any other, a God who did not need walls to claim victory. She knew Jericho's secrets. She knew its fear. The city feasted and laughed, blind to its coming judgment. But Rahab watched from the shadows, her heart pounding with something unfamiliar. Not fear, not shame, but a yearning for something greater. And soon, that yearning would place her at the center of a divine plan, one that would change history forever. The storm was coming, not of wind or rain, but of war. The name Joshua was whispered like a curse through the streets of Jericho. The Israelites, slaves who had defied Pharaoh, wanderers who had turned deserts into sanctuaries, were advancing, and the city trembled. Jericho's gates were shut tight. Soldiers patrolled the walls, their hands gripping spears slick with sweat. Merchants packed their goods, their usual deception laced with panic. The air was thick with unease, an invisible weight pressing down on every heart. The people had heard the stories, a sea split in two, mighty kings crushed beneath the feet of this God's people, a pillar of fire that led them through the night. Inside her house, Rahab watched. She saw the fear in men who once thought themselves untouchable. She heard the murmurs of desperate prayers, not to the gods of stone but to something greater. The city prepared for war, but deep inside they knew. Their walls would not save them. Their idols would not hear them. And Rahab? She felt it too. A shift, a calling. Something beyond the fear, beyond the chaos. A destiny about to unfold. The city of Jericho was drowning in fear, yet the night carried on as usual, shadows slinking through alleyways, whispers exchanged in secrecy, and sins hidden behind thick curtains. But this night was different. Something unseen had crept past Jericho's mighty walls, not with swords but with purpose. Two strangers moved swiftly through the streets, their steps careful, their eyes sharp. They were not ordinary travelers, nor were they merchants seeking fortune. They were spies, men of Israel, sent by Joshua himself to see the land, to uncover its weaknesses, to prepare for a battle already destined to be won. The walls had ears, the city had eyes, and danger lurked at every turn. They needed a place to hide. A place where secrets were kept, where no one questioned those who came and went. Behold, they found Rahab's house. She saw them before they spoke. Their garments were different, their manner guarded, their purpose unreadable, but their fearlessness intrigued her. The city trembled at the name of their God, yet these men walked as if victory was already theirs. She could have turned them away. She could have called the guards and sealed their fate. But something deep within her held her back. A whisper, a nudge, a moment of hesitation that would change everything. She opened her door. And with that single act, she stepped into a story far greater than her own. Rahab's heart pounded in her chest. She knew who these men were. They weren't ordinary travelers. They were Israelites, the very ones Jericho feared. Their God was different. Not a lifeless statue or a silent idol, but a God who moved, who fought, who won battles before they even began. She could feel the weight of her choice pressing down on her. She was caught, it would mean death. Yet, as she looked into the eyes of these men, she saw something Jericho had never given her: hope. The city's walls were high, but she had seen fear break men stronger than stone. Jericho would fall. She was sure of it. And when it did, what would happen to her? To her family? Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled as she spoke. Swear to me by your God. When Jericho falls, you will spare me and my family. A moment of silence. Then a promise, their lives for hers. A covenant sealed in the shadows, where a harlot dared to believe in a God she had never known. Rahab had just betrayed her city. But for the first time she was choosing life. A pounding at the door. Voices like thunder. Bring out the men who came to you. They are spies. Rahab's breath caught in her throat. The king's soldiers. Their swords gleamed in the moonlight, their eyes sharp with suspicion. They were close, too close. Upstairs, the spies waited in silence. Their fate hung in the balance. One wrong move, one misplaced breath, and it would all be over. But Rahab was no ordinary woman. She had spent a lifetime surviving in a world that sought to crush her. She knew how to outwit, how to deceive, how to turn danger into an opportunity. The men were here, she admitted, her voice calm. But they left before the city gates closed. If you hurry, you may catch them. The soldiers exchanged glances. Doubt flickered, but urgency drove them forward. In a storm of dust and armor, they rushed out into the night. Meanwhile, hidden beneath bundles of drying flax on her rooftop, the spies held their breath. Their lives rested in the hands of a woman Jericho had discarded, And Rahab? She stood by the door, watching the soldiers disappear into the darkness. A single choice had changed everything. There was no turning back now. The room was thick with silence, broken only by Rahab's steady voice. Fear no longer ruled her, faith did. I know, she whispered, eyes burning with certainty. I know the Lord has given you this land. I have heard of his power, how he dried the Red Sea, how he crushed mighty kings. Our people tremble because of you, for we know we are doomed. The spies watched her, stunned. This was not just a desperate woman seeking survival. This was a soul awakened by truth. Swear to me by the Lord, she pleaded, her voice firm yet desperate, that you will spare me and my family when destruction comes. The men exchanged glances before nodding. A pact was made. They handed her a scarlet cord, a simple thread, yet rich in meaning. Tie this in your window, they instructed. When we return, all inside will be spared. Rahab clutched the cord tightly. The color of blood, the color of mercy. A mark of salvation hung between judgment and grace. Few days later, the city of Jericho trembled under the weight of an unseen force. For 6 days, the Israelites had marched around its walls, silent, relentless, unshaken. The people of Jericho peered down from their fortifications, their once mighty hearts now gripped with fear. Why did they not attack? Why did they not speak? Each step echoed like a countdown to something inevitable. Inside her home, Rahab clutched the scarlet rope tied to her window. It swayed gently in the breeze, a silent plea, a beacon of faith. Every day she listened, waited, watched. Would they keep their promise? Or had she risked everything for nothing? The voices of her family trembled and whispered prayers, their fate bound to this strange and unseen God. Then came the 7th day. The morning sun cast an eerie glow over the city. 7 times they marched. 7 times the Israelites encircled the great walls, the tension thick as a storm about to break. Then, a sound that shook the heavens. A mighty shout. A blast of trumpets. The earth trembled. The walls groaned, cracked, and then collapsed. Stone crumbled like dust, a fortress of pride reduced to ruin in the blink of an eye. Screams filled the air. Jericho had fallen. Yet, amidst the devastation, one house remained standing, untouched, unshaken, marked by faith. Rahab gasped, tears streaming down her face. The promise had been kept. As the soldiers stormed the city, she and her family stood in awe, delivered not by weapons or strength, but by the God she had chosen to trust. Faith had saved her. The scarlet cord had spoken. The dust of Jericho had settled, its mighty walls nothing more than ruins swallowed by time. But among the wreckage, a new story was being written, a story not of destruction, but of redemption. Rahab, once a woman of the shadows, stepped forward into the light. She walked into the Israelite camp not as a captive, but as one of them. No longer Rahab the harlot, now Rahab the believer, the redeemed. The murmurs that once whispered of her past began to fade, drowned out by the truth of her faith. She had risked everything for a God she had only heard of, and now, he had written her name into his story. Time passed, and Rahab's life took an unexpected turn. She found love, not scorn. She built a new life, not a broken one. And in this life, something extraordinary happened. She bore a son. His name was Boaz, a man of great kindness and strength, who would one day redeem another foreign woman, Ruth. But Rahab's legacy did not end there. Her bloodline wove itself into the fabric of history, passing down through generations until it reached a young shepherd boy named David, the future king of Israel. And beyond David, her lineage stretched further still until, centuries later, it brought forth the greatest redeemer of all, Jesus Christ. A harlot's faith had rewritten history. The woman once trapped by her past became the foundation of a royal and divine legacy. Her story was no longer one of shame, but of grace. A testament that faith, no matter where it is found, has the power to change everything. Rahab's story is a testament to redemption, courage, and the limitless power of faith. She was a woman marked by her past, yet chosen by God for a future beyond imagination. She did not let fear define her. She chose faith over fear, courage over comfort, and salvation over destruction. In the ashes of Jericho's fall, she found her rise. Her name, once spoken in disgrace, became a symbol of grace. She became part of God's divine plan, the ancestor of kings, and ultimately of Jesus Christ himself. Rahab's story reminds us that no past is too broken for God to redeem. No life is too lost for him to restore. So what will you choose? Fear or faith? Despair or destiny? Because in the end, it is not where you start that matters, it is where faith takes you. Reflective questions. How does Rahab's story demonstrate the power of faith in the face of impossible circumstances? What does the fall of Jericho reveal about the relationship between obedience and divine intervention? How does Rahab's inclusion in Jesus' lineage reflect the theme of redemption throughout history? Kindly share your thought in the comments section below. Moral lessons from this story. 1. Faith can rewrite any story. Rahab's past did not define her future. Her faith in God transformed her from an outcast to a woman of honor, proving that redemption is always possible. 2. Courage requires risk. Rahab risked everything to protect the spies, showing that true courage often demands stepping out in faith, even when the consequences are uncertain. 3. God uses the unlikely. A harlot became a hero in God's plan. No one is too broken, too lost, or too unworthy for divine purpose. 4. Obedience brings divine intervention. The Israelites followed God's instructions and the walls of Jericho fell. Trust and obedience open doors to miracles. 5. Salvation is for those who choose it. Rahab's family was saved because she took action. God's grace is available, but we must respond to it. 6. The power of a single decision. One choice changed Rahab's destiny. Small acts of faith can have generational impact. 7. God's plan is bigger than our past. Rahab went from a life of shame to becoming an ancestor of Jesus Christ, proving that God's purpose always surpasses human labels. Prayer. Heavenly Father, just as you redeemed Rahab and gave her a new story, rewrite my life with your grace. Help me break free from my past and step into the purpose you have for me. Amen. Joining us on this epic journey. I believe you were inspired by this captivating story, so share your thoughts and comments in the comment section below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more faith-filled stories and divine inspiration. Till we come your way next time, bye for now.